This is Transqat. What is Transqat? Transqat is a safe space. It's a place for respectful conversations about transgender issues. It's a place for queer people to come tell their stories. I'm host Claire McCarthy. Welcome to Transqat. Short episode for you today. After our show covering the next Benedict Vigil, that's number 49 in your feed, a listener from Texas reached out, and they said they were having trouble coming to terms with what happened in Oklahoma, and could they please come on the show and talk about it. I'm grateful to Xander for sharing his story. As I discussed with Mac Beggs back in episode 62, it's hard to be trans in Texas right now, and Texas, of course, isn't the only state. Listeners, if your state government is legislating against your civil rights and you want a place to talk about your experiences, reach out. Now here's Xander.
I kind of am in a coat of many colors. I don't know what name to pick. Sometimes I pick Xander because I like the character Xander from Days of Our Lives, because he's very like macho and manly, and I'm kind of like, I want to be macho and manly sometimes. But then at the same time, I want to name myself Miles, Myles.
Okay.
Which is ironic because my brother's name is Miles, Millous. So it's kind of like sounds the same. Yeah, and I kind of wanted to be like a Beastie Boys kind of reference, like MCA, Miles Cade Adams. But I haven't, but it just like, my name is just kind of like really weird. I don't know what to name myself.
What would you like me to refer to you as we're talking?
Well, you can call me Xander.
Pronouns, Xander. What do you like? I'm she, her, by the way.
Well, that's the hard part because I don't know what my gender is.
Okay.
So I'm kind of like, well, I don't know if I want to be called he or he, him, or they, them. So
tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was born and raised there with my single mother for like all her life. She had me when she was 23. And what I remember about my mom is she was molested by a family friend. And it's kind of murky because the other part of the family doesn't know. So I'm just like, I'm kind of switching, like, should I tell them? Should I not tell them? It's like, is it my business? And then like my mom died in 2017, and my brother and I, who was 8 at the time, was kind of like made the big move from Wisconsin to Texas with my uncle and aunt, who were great to take us in. Then by 2017 or 18, I remember, I'll never forget, it was Empire, the show Empire that was on Fox. I remember, I'll never forget, it was Wednesday. And I remember we came to Texas that Wednesday. And I remember like, oh no, I have to watch Empire. So I remember just being like so like caught up with like what to do. So I remember like, I'll never forget like watching Empire by myself, and it felt kind of weird not watching it with her. So it was like, Then as I was watching the show, I was like, well, maybe I can write my own soap opera, because that's what I grew up on. Because like for some reason, like those lifestyle rich and famous type of soaps kind of really interest me. And at that time, I was moving from group homes at the time. So I was moving from group homes, and everything was kind of like, I wasn't happy. Then I moved to Stevensville, where I met this guy who was also trans, same as Fabian. And one thing I remember about him is he kind of came out to me kind of like on a kind of like normally. He kind of said, oh, I'm signing up birth. And I was like, okay. It wasn't jaw dropping because I kind of felt it. Pronouns and by his voice. And I was like, you're trans. I didn't want to be mean, but at the same time, that's why I grew into it. That's when I kind of started to question myself. And
when he told you that, when he came out and said, trusted you with that information, was that something that he felt happy about? Was he scared about it? What was the tone like at the time?
I would say it was kind of like a little bit like careful, because we were in Texas. It's very like conservative, and he lived right across the street from where my house was. So he walked from a short distance, and he only worked with us for like a year. Then like I never heard from him again, which is sad, but I have his number, and he is like, whom I told is in Dallas and is in school. And I'm like, that's great. Cause I'm like, because I really liked him, because he felt like that kind of close friend that I needed for a transness. But I never forget when I heard his name, I thought of my gender. And I was like, why am I thinking that? Then I started watching Boys Don't Cry, because that was a movie I couldn't help but just think. Because I was watching the Brendan Tina story yesterday, and like any trans movie I could get my hands on Tubi, and just think, what is wrong with this? Something doesn't feel right. Because I was thinking about Next Benedict, and I thought he was 16 when he died. And when I was 16, I had no idea what I wanted. I had no idea what I wanted to be or what I wanted to express myself. I didn't have a lot of friends in high school. So I was pretty much like, well, I'll just stand, me, myself, and I. And then, so I kind of feel like if I was 16 then, I probably might be trans. Because I kind of didn't like being very girly. I just kind of was like dressed down. My hair was like more longer. And I had it like back.
Since our audience can't see, you've got this gorgeous close cropped look.
Thank you.
Very sharp. So before your friend started talking to you about this, hadn't thought about gender at all? I mean, in terms of yourself, or had you?
Well, I felt like there was, as much as we could go on, signs from God that said you might be this, which sounds weird because my grandma's a Southern Baptist. She died a year after my mom. It was kind of like instilled, like, save the homosexuals and all that stuff. And I was like, I don't want to save them. They're fine where they are. So there was that. So I never thought about it until like just recently. And today I just wrote like a journal of it, like diary of a questioning transgender man. Okay, here's the first entry. Thursday, May 30th, 2024. Pray on it. One of the nice talking nurse told me, and I don't know if I should feel offended, but she did say to start journaling, which I'll start doing. Ever since this questioned my gender, I've started watching anything that involves transgender people. Thinking about that, praying on it makes me believe she didn't mean it in a harmful way.
So you're taking her words, pray on it, to mean make some peace with your God.
Yeah.
As opposed to what you were saying earlier, where the approach where, okay, we're gonna fix you, we're gonna cure you, but more you as an individual talk to God and listen.
Yeah, I think that's what she was trying to say. And I wrote some other stuff down, which is kind of explicit. So I don't know if I should read it.
Go ahead, and I can always edit or bleep as we need to.
Okay. I feel like as I stare at the door of the boys' bathroom, whoever goes to that bathroom, I have my period today. It happened yesterday when Mother Nature brought her monthly gift.
As you're questioning gender and you're praying about it, what is your relationship to your period?
Discomfort, because I'm just like, well, great, I have my period again. Because I had it yesterday, and it's only like happens like in a span of 2 or 3 days. So it's very short. So when I get my period, I'm just like, it's kind of like all hands on deck. Everyone's like, get all the pads and just use them, and kind of like, because I live in a 6-bed house. I'm in a group home. So we kind of share, like, we don't share everything. We kind of share, like, we share the toiletries. So we have these like big, thick pads that extend. And those things felt like a diaper when I wore one. And I was like, why am I wearing these?
So in the group home, what is the room situation like? Do you have roommates? Do you have your own room?
I have my own room. I think there's only 2 people that share a room, but like there's only like, I think 2 or 3 that have their own room. So it's like I got the last of the good rooms, as I say.
Nice.
The last time I had a group home situation, it was with this girl who seemed like she just was so disgusted by seeing me before I even like questioned my gender and exposed it to anybody else at that time. But every time she was like, oh. And I was like so annoyed that she was the main reason why I left that group home and came to this one. That, and like I miss my family because because I live in Hutto, which is like very close to Round Rock, Austin area. So there was that, and I have a brother who's in the foster care system. He's been in there since he was 8 or 9 years old, and I feel like he's not going to get adopted before he reaches the limit to be adopted, to stay adopted.
Are there people in your group home, the current one that you're in, that are supportive, that are helpful for you?
Yeah, but they don't know about the gender questioning thing. I wanted to tell them one time, but I was kind of freaking out because I have a bad anxiety because I take this pill. It's a small little blue pill. It's like called propranolol. I have to take it 4 times a day to stop the chest pains I have.
And
And my
that's
friend,
anxiety related pains. Yeah.
yeah, and my friend Fabian gave me an idea, well, gave me a suggestion to do something that trans guys do for their chest. I forget what it was, but I tried it and it helped a little bit, but not a lot. But I still have his number, and I'm so eager to tell him, like, I think I might be trans, and it's like not your fault. Well, I don't
Right.
want to say it's all your fault. I don't want to be mean because I haven't seen him in a couple years.
Well, it doesn't sound to me like there's any faults to be assessed. I mean,
Yeah.
Fabian is who Fabian is. You are who you are. You've got your journeys.
Hi, folks. For the first 2 years of Transqat, I focused on 2 goals: create quality conversations and maintain a consistent schedule. I've done that. Now I need to turn some of the focus to money. I have no illusions about this show turning a profit. That's for podcasts with a large organization behind them. My goal is simply to make Transqat pay for itself. You get to access the show for free, and it's important to me that this always be the case. But you might not know that there are fees, subscriptions, equipment, and travel costs behind the production. How can you help? Well, on the support menu at transqat.com, select Donate, then hit the PayPal Donate button. You can make it a one-time thing, or you can set up a monthly or even yearly recurring donation. Also on the support menu is an option to sponsor. Your business or organization can sponsor one or a block of episodes in exchange for a 30-second ad and a social media mention. Details are on the site. Listeners, if you know of a business or group that might be a good fit, let me know so I can reach out. Or maybe you could do some of the legwork and ask the next time you're there. If this show has value to you, if you support civil discourse around trans and queer issues, support the show. And as the Scottish woman at the end credits says,
please consider supporting our mission with your monies. Any monkeys will be gratefully received as well.
Other than preying on it, is there somebody that you're able to talk to about this as you're processing it? You said somebody was advising you to do some journaling. Is that person someone you can talk to about it?
Well, I don't see a therapist yet. I saw my psychiatrist last Tuesday, and she suggested I journal about it. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. And I've been journaling in different notebooks. And at a point, I was so confused. I was like, well, what if I try a trans support group? So I found one in Texas. It's in Houston. They do Zooms every Thursday. And I think they had one yesterday at 7, which I didn't go to. But it's just kind of like what you expect support group to be. It's very wholesome. They're very nice. They give you advice, and you can't help but love it. But when I first came to the first support group, it was during the next Benedict death, and I was like, oh my God. And I felt so bad. I mean, anytime I hear about a trans person being murdered, I feel bad. But when it's a trans man that's only 16, I can't shake it.
How did you find out about Nex? What was this, from news stories, from other people?
It was from other people. It was from my other Facebook friend, Arceli, who was very upset. And I didn't blame her. I was like, ugh. I was like, and she was, and then I was 16, and I was thinking about myself, and all the floodgates kind of opened, and I just didn't know what.
It was a very distressing story. I wrestled with it as well. And the fact that once we found out that it wasn't what happened in the bathroom that killed Nex, that Nex made that decision themselves. For me, that didn't make it any easier to deal with. It's, it's one way or the other. These folks brought about a 16-year-old's death, and I'm right there with you. I don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah. The one thing that scares me if I do transition is like the backlash and the aftermath of what happens. Like, will I get kicked out of this place? Because this is like my fourth or fifth group home that I've been to. And I like it so far. We just came back from Taco Cabana, which is really good. And the one thing I thought of, as not only was I scared I was not going to make it to this meeting, which I did, I'm very glad, is that how do I tell somebody this problem that I have? Like, how do I express it and say, well, I have this, and it's like something to do with this. And I told my aunt through an email, which sounded like the safest part to do. And she was very supportive. She's like, well, we can go to your psychiatrist and your therapist and see what else. And I was like, I just want the hormones. And I don't know if that's possible just to start on hormones like that. But ever since then, I've been on YouTube finding like anything that is like trans male related or transgender related. Every time I watch a documentary about trans people, it's always depressing. There's no happiness. There's no like. There was this one called Boy Meets Girl. It was like a romantic comedy. I didn't finish that, but it's on Tubi, and I'm like, oh, I like this, and then it kind of like I stopped because I had to go to bed.
Well, you mentioned watching Boys Don't Cry, and of course Nex's story. They don't end happily. So yeah, there are a lot of stories of trans joy out there. There are an awful lot of folks living full, productive lives, and there's no reason you can't as well. It's just getting the support that you need to get you there. And it sounds like, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Because I'm a soap opera writer. I love to write soaps. And the one thing I try to do with all of my soaps is to include a trans person in every soap. Like, for example, there's this show in the UK called EastEnders, and they had this big storyline. There was like 6 women that were involved in a murder mystery, and we didn't know who was murdered. We didn't know why one woman was wearing a wedding dress until like the end of the year, like Christmas, which they always do it every Christmas. Every Christmas, they always go out and just make it happen and just do big or go. It's like go big or go home. And they finally tell us who they killed. It was actually 2 people. And it was like they had to bury the body and all this like craziness. And I was like, well, what is happening to those trans people? But they didn't kill them. They killed the person, the transphobic person. But if it's just one of those secret they know that like they all know, it's like from different 6 transgender people share one secret, and it doesn't involve like gender. And then I thought about this other storyline on Young the Restless, because I thought, well, what if Young the Restless had like a trans person? And I thought a trans masculine person. But I don't see that a lot. And like there was one in Bold and Beautiful with Maya, and I saw a couple episodes of that, and I was like, well, that's okay. And well, it kind of ended on a sour note because they written her off in some like bad way, as the soaps do. But some people said it's really good because it said it's finally something they needed. And I was like, well, I'm like, yeah, you got a trans person, but she wasn't really trans. So the reason why she never came back because she wanted a real trans person to play that role, the actress that played Maya. And I thought that was very smart.
If you've never seen Pose,
I have.
Well, yeah, well worth your time. I love that show.
I was in the middle of season 2, and I finished The Candy Funeral, which was really sad.
Yeah.
I remember watching it in my room one time back in Georgetown. I was like, oh no. And I felt bad for Angelica Ross. And I'm like, well, she deserves an Emmy.
Yeah.
Why can't we just snatch the Emmy from Viola Davis's hand and give it to her or something? I was like, it was like But the one thing about Pose I wish they did more of, not just more seasons, but just more like trans masculine representation.
Mm-hmm.
Like the trans what feminine representation was great, but I didn't know many trans men in like the ballroom era.
Yeah.
Especially with Harris's Burning and the aggressives. And I don't know much about. Oh, I remember the aggressives. I know that for sure. That was a movie that really took too close to home for me. They were women dressed up like aggressively as men. And the one thing I remember hearing, I forget who it was, and it said like they always felt like this was who they were supposed to be. Like whether it was a trans guy or a female, they felt like that was who they were meant to be. And I'm like, still don't know who I'm meant to be.
And I think there is a lot of pressure out there for folks all around the gender spectrum to make that decision so you can tell the other people. And that's not fair. You should have all of the time and space that you need to ask your questions, talk to people who are supportive, reach out to groups, get information, whatever you need, and not be under a timeline.
Yeah.
I really like your idea of rewriting scripts that you find a problem. I mean, when I was growing up, there was no positive portrayal of people like us. And that idea never occurred to me, that I could just sit down and take that episode and rewrite it in a way that was helpful to me. It's brilliant.
Yeah. I do that a lot with a lot of my soaps. Well, I think it was All My Children with the Zoe character. And I thought, well, why can't like Zoe and Bianca be together by the end of the series? Like I was so hurt. Just like I remember I wasn't into soaps back then, but I remember that story and I was like, why can't they be together? The actor was really male. Had the actor portray as a male actor, and the lesbians were not happy with it. They were like, we want the lesbians. And I was like, I don't blame you, but can we at least give Zoe a chance? Because I'm like, question my sexuality. And there's always a specific guy that I'm into that's like, well, I'm like, and then the Rolodex comes in my head, like, would they be attracted to trans men? And then I see them with trans men. I'm like, well, I see it. And you kind of see it, but you think it's fake. But it felt natural.
Do you have celebrity people in movies and TV that you look at and say, that's what I want to be like? I want to look like that. I want to sound like that. I want to act and dress like this.
Cisgender or transgender?
Either way.
There are guys that I would like to be with, like Matt Palmer, Luke Farland, just like those are the only two guys I can think of at the top of my head.
Were there other things you wanted to talk about?
Do you know any good resources in Texas for trans people? Because I know the Montrose Center is in Houston. They kind of do some good work for the LGBT community, but I don't know any others. So I was wondering, do you know?
Off the top of my head, no, because I'm in Connecticut. I could certainly look into it and see what I can find. So we're looking for in the Austin area?
Yes.
Okay. I'd be happy to look into that and we'll let you know. Well, I'm so happy that you reached out. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Happy Pride.
Next up on Transqat, friend of the show, Tony Ferriolo, has published a memoir, and he'll be here to talk about it. Tony, you might remember, was our first guest back in August of 2022. He works with Healthcare Advocates International, and he has a long record of working with and on behalf of trans youth. His book, Finding My Way Out of the Darkness, is a candid and at times painful look at the experiences that shaped him and motivated him to become a fierce advocate for kids in crisis. Today's episode is being released 11 days before Election Day, and I know you've been exposed to a plethora of reasons not to go to the polls. Your vote doesn't count. The system is rigged. I know. I get it. I'm exhausted, and frankly, I'm scared about what happens after November 5th as well. But if you're trans, or if you care about somebody who is, the choice is clear. As the philosopher from New Jersey said, "Ain't no angel gonna greet me here. It's just you and I, my friend." I'll put a link in the show notes to his thoughts as well about why your vote matters. This has been Transqat. I'm Claire McCarthy. Thank you for listening. Let's talk soon.
This is Sadie McCarthy. I'm Claire's niece.
And you've just been listening to Transqat. It is made by one of my favorite people in the world, Claire McCarthy.
Transqat is a production of Transqat Enterprises, LLC.
Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.
Join us on the web at transqat.com.
That's TRANSQAT.com.
QAT.com.
QAT.com.
There you'll find links to Transqat, the blog,
writing projects,
speaking engagements,
and our PayPal donations page.
Please consider supporting our mission with your monkeys.
Monies.
Your monies.
Your monies.
not monkeys.
Please consider supporting our mission with your monies. Any monkeys will be gratefully received as well.
Follow Transqat on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
On TikTok, we are at The Real Transqat.
Want to tell your story on air?
or ask Claire a question.
What is the deal?
She has all the answers.
Or suggest a guest or topic for an upcoming episode.
Use the contact page at the website
or email her directly at crmtranscat@gmail.com.
crmtranscat@gmail.com.
And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Bye.